بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين. The Prophet, peace be upon him, when he went out to his house, he had a prayer. He said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika an adalla aw udal. Oh God, I seek refuge in you that I should go astray or be led astray. Adalla aw udal. Aw azilla aw uzal. Or that I should trip or that I should be tripped. Azilla aw uzal. Aw adlim aw udram alayya. Or that I should oppress or that I should be oppressed. Aw ajhal aw yujhal alayya. Or that I should show ignorance or I should be the victim of somebody else's ignorance. So that was a prayer that he made when he began his day. Today, this lecture, inshallah, is going to be on the topic of Islam. And
can I ask where in the Quran? I noticed you were reading.
Oh, no, I wasn't reading that. Yeah, that was from the... No, this is a passage I'm going to look at. But I could write it out for you if you want. To begin, I'm not going to talk today about the Shahada because that's going to be in the section on Iman. So I'm going to really more focus on the four pillars after that and then look at the Sharia. So I would begin by saying the best way to understand a tradition in my estimation is what they call through the normative practice in comparative religions. I studied that my undergraduate work was in comparative religion, and I noticed that teachers tended to take two routes, one of two routes. They would either use the class as a way of analyzing a teaching, allowing the teaching to speak for itself, or they would use the class, well, there were probably more than two, but the basic two, where they would use the class to to superimpose their prejudices on the tradition and really tell what they thought about the religion instead of allowing the tradition to speak for itself. And one of the best ways to do that, and it will seem like they're being objective, but it's actually quite, and I don't know if there's malintent, and I'm not going to get into that, but one of the best ways of doing that is to look at a religion from what they term a descriptive approach, which was where instead of looking at what the religion says, you look at what the people who practice it do. And then you can just explore a lot of problematic aspects of any teaching. You can say if you have a bone of contention with Catholicism, you'll really emphasize in your course on the Inquisition and how horrific the Catholics were.
That's true, but the problem is that to the non-believer, one looks and sees that which is being practiced or being practiced upon. You can say that all religions, preach humility and love thy neighbor, and all of the things that we would consider as positive. But if you are being harassed or being told what to do in the name of God, you tend to focus on that. How does one get out from that?
Well, yeah, and these are good points, and this is why people will often focus on that. And we live particularly in an age when secularism has become quite dominant, and the religious worldview, certainly in the West, has taken a back seat. But my point of bringing that out is that I would prefer that anyone who looked at a tradition, and this is my practice with any religious tradition, is to look first and foremost at how the tradition itself is articulating itself, how the tradition is describing itself, irrespective of how it's been practiced in the past by people, whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, or Buddhism. And then to move into a descriptive examination of the teaching, of how has this teaching impacted human cultures. So I think both views are valid, but when there is an emphasis on one as opposed to the other, I think that's going to lead to some very serious misconceptions with any tradition. And that on top of biases that people might have, so they'll examine certain areas to the exclusion of other areas.